Welcome back, folks. Having a look at some PLA here, or sorry, some ABS Plus. And it's funny that I said PLA because it looks very much like that when it's finished printing, and I'll get into that in a second. This was some sample ABS that came from a local seller here, 3D Creator Canada, who happens to live pretty much on the other side of the city that I'm at, which is great. Decent prices, and you have it in the same day, so perfect. Wanted me to have a look at this red ABS Plus filament, and now, to me, to be honest, it's showing up a little bit more orange to me, and appears to be orange, but if you hadn't have told me that it was ABS or this ABS Plus, I would have probably assumed it to be PLA, looking at the finished print. It was dimensionally very stable. I was printing a unit centimeter cube, and both it and PLA printed at 10.1 millimeters tall, but this ended up being 9.9 on the X and 9.9 on the Y, from the bottom to the top. It did lift in the corner, as you can see there in the left corner. It was lifting a bit, but it was 9.9 around its perimeter, and the corners did round a bit, which would be, you know, somewhat acceptable for ABS and typical. The PLA that I had very sharp corners, but it actually had a little bit more shrinking compared to this. This actually hardly shrunk at all. The PLA that I'd been using for the last few days, it actually experienced a bit more shrinking once it got a millimeter or so away from the bed, and it was actually being it was actually 9.8 by 9.8, and then of course 10.1 tall. It didn't shrink vertically. The finish was almost exactly the same, and if you'd sat them side by side, I'd tell you they were both PLA. But this is ABS Plus, and I'm going to have to talk to 3D Creator and ask him what is that plus. But it did behave quite a bit like PLA, except for that little bit of lifting. So I wanted to try it on something a little bit more complex. So I reprinted a ring that I'd done earlier for my wife in PLA, and I did it in this what I'm going to call an orange filament here, and it just happened to apparently go well with their blue ring, which, don't ask me about that. That kind of color stuff is her department, but she loved it, and it was very minimal warping. But more importantly, on the printing side of things and the functionality side of things, it was also very, very close to the PLA one, and the PLA one measured exactly to the model. This was almost dead on, except for a little bit of sort of warping in the bridge, in the, I guess, the middles or the troughs, but hardly at all. More importantly, though, it's separated from that raft perfectly, and you're going to see some pictures in a second, but it popped right off, like hardly nothing holding it. Didn't have to sand it or anything. But anyhow, just a small update, and always, thanks for watching.